I've been waiting for this, yeah. It's been up on my mind, oh, it's hard to resist. Feeling like one of a kind. Oh, now the hard time's over, and for a moment I won't look back now, yeah. And it's moving closer.
I call this meeting to order of the New Jersey State Fireman Association Executive Committee. Mary Ann, are you ready? Mary Ann, are you ready?
There's talking in the background.
If people would mute their screens until they're called on to speak, that would be helpful to be able to hear and discern what's going on. This meeting is called in accordance with the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act. This virtual meeting has been posted on the website of the New Jersey State Firemen Association. Please mute your computers until you're called on to speak, and then when called, state your name before beginning to speak. We need to make sure our stenographer knows who is speaking and that you speak loudly and clearly so you can be recorded correctly. Today's meeting may be longer than usual as we get used to the process and the recording of votes. Please bear with us. We have a large number of items to discuss and potentially vote on. Please do not interpret my attempts to keep things moving as shutting down discussion. If you need to speak on an issue, execs, wave your hand, hit the toggle switch on the lower left to say you have something to say, and you will be called on. I believe you have an electronic wave icon on the lower left of your screen you can use, or just wave your hand if you're using the camera. Between the two, we will hopefully see you, and I will call on you. Please note that there will not be an executive session during this meeting. Everything said and discussed will be an open session. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Vice President Hankins.
Please listen to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Remain standing for a moment of silence, and while you're standing, please remember Ernie Greenwald, who went back in the hospital this week, and including your thoughts, Dan Shire, Andy Mazzarella, and Barry Osborne, who are still recovering. Those three are happen to be with us today, also online. Also, keep in mind first responders that are ill or may have passed away throughout the state and country. And remember our armed forces serving us around the world. Pray that they stay safe. You may be seated. We have no oath of office to conduct today, so we'll skip that. Roll call, Mr. Martone. Who is missing?
So I have everybody present accounted for, with Ernie Greenwald being an excused absence. I'm missing Jerry Nilis and Jimmy Reeves.
Jerry Nilis is on my phone. I'm trying to hook up my computer.
Jerry Nilis is here. I'm just missing Jim Reeves.
Jim Reeves is the only one?
Okay.
Thank you. Public comment, Mr. Martone.
The New Jersey State Firemen's Association welcomes comments from the members of the audience. The Secretary will note all comments, and because of this, we ask anyone speaking to state their name, address, and if applicable, association before speaking, and to keep their comments to a 3-minute time limit. Concerns stated or actions requested by the public will be taken under advisement by the Executive Committee for investigation, discussion, and possible action or disposition at a later time.
Thank you. Does anybody from the public wish to speak? I don't see anyone. I don't hear anyone. So then we will move on. For the balance of this meeting, it is only open for speakers from the Executive Committee and the officers. The public is not permitted during the rest of the meeting. We have the approval of minutes from our February 22nd, 2020 meeting, abridged and verbatim. Do we have a motion?
Make that a motion.
I'll make that a motion. Norm make the motion.
Wayne.
Who made the second? Norm Figueroa made the motion.
Thank you.
John Lane made the second.
Thank you.
Any question on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Communications. Secretary Pulea, are there any additional communications that need to be read?
Trying to get the thing on.
Mr. President, can you hear me?
And there is no more communications.
Is there a motion to accept all communications, both read and already distributed, and make them part of the record? Action on any, if necessary, will be done at the appropriate time during the meeting. Is there a
Larry
motion?
Hanlon, I motion.
Larry Hanlon makes a motion.
Rich Otterbein seconds.
Rich Otterbein seconds. Any discussion on the motion?
You made the second.
The second was Rich Otterbein.
Second was Rich Otterbein.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We have no life member report. We're going to the officers' reports. Vice President Hankins.
Yes, the majority of my report was been in your packet. The only thing I would, well, hello? Not on? Hello? Is that picking up now?
No.
Are you on mute?
No, I'm muted. I'm muted.
I'm going now.
You hear me?
I'm hearing Vice President Hankins. There's too much background noise.
You guys either you.
Everybody out in the field, you need to mute your computers. There's a lot of feedback, there's a lot of noise. Your phones, your computers need to mute.
Everybody should be muted.
I'm getting a lot of garbage and background noise. And I did not get what Vice President Hankins said.
I'm just starting.
Okay, great.
All right. So as far as my report, the majority of my report was issued as a written report. The only thing I would like to add is that the packets we know were mailed out. Some of you got them, some of you didn't. Please let Tommy Palela know when you do receive them. So this way you can we can have a better understanding of how long this mail is going to take to get out. Should we have to do this again? The other portion of my report is just so you are aware. The death claim certificates, forms 301, 302, 303, we have been sending them out to the secretaries as an email packet to try and expedite the claims process for the burial claims. So you may hear back from the secretaries that we're doing that. I think it's a good move and it helps. Other than that, I have no report.
Any questions? Any questions for the Vice President?
Larry Hanlon. Joe, I just have a question on the repair work for the building.
Yes.
I see we had an out-of-pocket expense of $3,354.06. $1,000 of that was our deductible. What was the balance of that? What did that cover?
The question, the 2,000 is what wasn't covered by insurance. It was 2,000 and change. It wasn't covered by insurance.
Okay.
The insurance company didn't cover the crew that we had come out and actually pick up roofing debris that was scattered probably every square inch of the property.
Okay.
We couldn't have the mowers come out and mow it because it was literally 2x4s and pieces of wood and nails and roof tar. So we had to pick it up.
Okay. Thanks, Joe.
All right.
Any other questions for the Vice President?
Yes, this is Alan Cardilla. Joe, I see in your report that you had a conference with Senator Doherty over the age change. How is that going?
I believe it says we're attempting to have a conference with him. We do have a conference that is soon to be scheduled with one of the Assembly members, but Doherty hasn't gotten back to us yet.
Very well. If you wish, I can help you with that.
Can't talk like that.
Joe, I can help out with Mike if you wish.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else have a question for Mr. Hankins? You have something, Conrad?
I just wanted to.
This is Conrad Malert.
I stopped at.
He's mute. He's mute.
Dave, he's on mute.
He's on mute. Wait a minute.
Yeah. Tommy did. All right, Conrad, now you can speak.
Okay, I did stop at Senator Doherty's office, and he was so busy with unemployment and some of the things through the virus that he wouldn't do anything with it right now. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Hankins? Okay, move on to Secretary Palaia.
Okay, Secretary Palaia. Due to the limited activity this spring, I have no written report submitted for this meeting. My verbal report is as follows. In your package, you will find the resolution and requisition to the state treasurer for the 999 monies, which will be voted on under new business. Also in your packet there is a list of counties that have a Fireman's Own Board of Managerial election at their caucus this year. We received no resolutions for this year's convention by the deadline of May 1st. So there will be no resolutions on this year's ballot. Delegate cards and replacement life member cards are in the process of being made and will be sent out to the local secretaries prior to the office closing for the summer break at the end of June. As always, any changes in delegates and alternates must be sent or emailed to us, sent in writing or emailed to us in writing. The deadline for changes is August 31st. That's the end of my report.
Are there any questions for Secretary Palaia? Moving on, Assistant Secretary Martone.
Brian Martone here. I just want to, sir, just update the roster. We have all members accounted for. Jim Reeves signed on, and I have Jerry Niles now.
Okay, very good. Any questions for Mr. Martone? Second Assistant Secretary Dreby. Rick?
I
Do you have a report?
have nothing to report.
Okay, thank you.
I do
Any
not.
questions for Mr. Dreby? Mr. Osborne, our treasurer. Barry, you need to unmute your mic. There you go.
Okay. Barry Osborne, treasurer. Due to the virus, we've had difficulty getting the examiners into the office to review. As soon as I get the financials, we'll mail them out forthwith. That's all I have for now.
Okay, is there any questions for the treasurer? None. Field examiner James Kenny.
They can't.
Jim, you're muted. Unmute yourself. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Jim Kenny,
Yes, Jim.
field examiner. My written report is in your package. We are collecting the local relief reports from those who were scheduled for a field exam this year. And I asked that you please collect them, bring them into the office so we can review them. I also ask that you follow up after you have received your copy of the exam to follow up with your local associations and make any necessary corrections. That's all I have to report. I stand corrected. Field exams, stay tuned, probably in the fall, once things clear. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions to the field examiner? No. Council, Mr. Cavallo.
My report was submitted to everyone. I have no verbal beyond that.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Cavallo? Mr. Morris, Assistant Counsel.
I have nothing additional to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. My report. I do not have a written report in your folder. I do have a number of verbal items. The New Jersey State Firemen's Association State Office will be closed May 25th in observance of the Memorial Day holiday. Reports. The 2018 Annual Finance Report, 2019 Annual Membership Percentage Report, 2020 First Quarter Relief Paid Report, and 2020 Delegates Report. Those reports were received 100% on time. Congratulations to the local officers and you, the execs, for following up and getting them in. At this time, statewide, we only have one association not seated. Officers listing report. I again ask if you have missing email or phone numbers or better email and phone numbers for the local officers, please get them to Secretary Peleas so we can update them to the system. With any of the online reports, it is imperative that if anyone is having problems, no matter how minor it might seem, they need to call us to assist them to get the problem corrected. As I've said in the past, we do a lot of beta testing, but that never catches every issue or problem. Website updates are a work in progress. There's more to come. Last year's third quarter relief page reported 82 manually completed submissions. We are down to 46 associations that completed manual ones for the first quarter of this year. The second quarter report is due July 30th. And just a reminder that it becomes mandatory to do the reports online and finalize them online with the fourth quarter later this year. IRS 990 filing. This year, over 390 reports are already in. We have about 150 to go. And a reminder that next year, the IRS is requiring that all 990 submissions be done online. The IRS will not accept mailed copies next year. Numbers. I will report year-to-date comparisons at each meeting to emphasize aspects of the changes that we made. These numbers you don't have to write down. I'm going to send them out after the meeting, and some of them I just updated yesterday after Mr. Kenny put some information in the system. The 2019 healthcare versus 2020. Through today's meeting, last year and this year, last year was $85,414 on healthcare. This year, same time period, $375,271, an increase of over 339%. Last year, we only had 39 members receiving reimbursements. This year, for that time period, there were 78. So it's doubled the number of people in the program. 2019 special relief versus 2020 special relief. 2019, it was $96,450. 2020, $285,407, up over 195%. This year, the advisory committee has reviewed 68 applications for special relief. That compares to only 44 last year during the time period. So the local associations are getting work done and getting information into us to act on at the advisory meeting. 2019 supplemental relief.
Live streaming has stopped.
Can you all still hear me?
Jerry,
Yeah.
Okay. I just got a weird message.
Yeah, I got a message, live streaming stopped here.
Well, mine's still going, so we'll give it a try.
Yeah, we're still going.
2019 supplemental relief was $189,681 approved. 2020 supplemental relief, $309,357, up over 63%. And interestingly, last year and this year, we had the same number of applications, 32, that were worked on by the advisory committee. So, to date, total health care and special relief paid out by the state office this year is $660,000, or over $660,000. Last year at this time, actually that's an increase of $478,000, or 263%. Total health care specialist supplemental approved so far this year, $970,000. An increase of about $600,000 over last year, or 161%. Again, all these numbers are going to be sent out to you, so if you want to report them to your members, they'll be available. So the changes made to the various levels of relief health care are working. More payments are going out to our members in need, and that is a fantastic thing. Back during the November meeting, I mentioned that we will probably need to change the insurance checks percentage split starting May of 2021. And the preliminary numbers I just read reaffirm that, and we will keep you advised throughout the year. Local associations are continuing to use the bank statements at NJSFA.com to email their bank statements, and they're using the local reports at NJSFA to email the local reports. It's working out very well. Robert Kelly was successful in arranging for a piece of steel from the World Trade Center to be delivered to us. Joe Hankins made the arrangements to receive it, and an appropriate display has been made in the lobby. Thank you to Monarch for the donation. Monarch went out of business here in New Jersey as far as the transportation end of it, and when they closed their office, they gave us a piece of steel that they had. So thank you to Monarch. Tom Palaia read that there are 5 counties that have managers up for election this year. That's Camden, Monmouth, Salem, Somerset, and Warren. In addition, I have been advised that a manager not up for re-election may step down, and there may be a manager that has taken a position at the home. We will notify all local associations in those counties in a timely fashion, and we will hold elections for the unexpired terms at those caucuses if it becomes necessary. I mentioned at the last meeting that the Borough Hospital and a Gift from Captain Bussio programs have parted ways. I want to re-emphasize that both programs are still doing physicals for firefighters, and you need to contact whichever one you wish to go to for an appointment. There may be some restrictions to the COVID-19 virus, and you need to contact them for information. But both programs are still doing physicals. Back in April, Vice President Hankins read that FEMA and the state were not going to reimburse firefighters who had to quarantine themselves in hotel motels away from their families due to COVID-19 exposure. We developed a program to reimburse those costs and reviewed it with the advisory committee. Originally, FEMA was recommending 11 days of isolation, and Vice President Hankins believes they are now recommending 14 days. During new business, I'm going to ask for a motion to affirm the creation of this program so that any of our firefighters, if they're not already being reimbursed, can get reimbursement towards lodging to stay away from their families and keep everyone protected. All officers are running for re-election, and I hope that you feel we're doing a good enough job, and as we continue to move this association in a positive direction. During new business, we will have the election of our field examiner, counsel, and assistant counsel if those motions are made. Tom mentioned the annual 2 resolutions to the state. Those will be voted on in new business. On March 1st, $11,843,000 was wired to the New Jersey Fireman's Home for their 2021 budget. And for those people who don't understand how budgets work, when I say 2021 budget, that's for the budget that starts July 1st, 2020 and ends June 30th, 2021. All budgets are always referred to by the year they end. The year prior, it was $12,239,400. Yesterday, May 15th, $16,629,993.86 was wired to the 538 local associations, an increase of over $1,300,000 from last year. There are 39 associations that receive subsidy funds. I received notice from Valley National, our bank, that 5 associations, we had a minor issue with their routing number and account numbers. Valley National has figured out the correct information, and those 5 associations should have received their funds. And to date, I have no notice of anyone not receiving funds. If you as execs hear of anybody that has a problem, didn't get the money in their account, have them call us Monday, please. That concludes my report. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Rob, Larry Hanlon, Hudson County.
Yep.
I just want to comment on the monies that are going out. You know, there's a lot of things on social media, and the one for the governor taking our $33 million. That's going around again, but.
That was last year. Please make
Right.
sure you tell everybody
And
that
that's-
article from last year.
Right, that's what
Very
we've been.
frustrating.
We've been telling everybody that. I've been passing that along. But also with that, I do want to thank the advisory board and Vice President Hankins for getting the information out on how much we're actually paying out. It shows a transparency and that we are taking care of our brother and sister firefighters. And I think that's important that everybody knows, because, you know, there's always been a thing that the Firemen's Association is a secret society and nobody ever knows anything. But there's more transparency than ever, and that information is readily available. And again, thank you to the advisory board and Vice President Hankins for getting that information out.
Okay. Any other questions for me? Then we will continue to move along.
I have a question.
Committee reports. Oh, who's that?
Cindy.
Cindy Badger? Okay.
Yes. On the reimbursement for lodging for first responders,
Yes.
is if that person, say, is a municipal, state, county employee, are we just taking the word that they're not being reimbursed, or is that going to somehow be verified?
Unless you have proof otherwise that they're being reimbursed, we're going to have to take their word for it. I don't know if we're. I mean, the chief can sign off on it or somebody else can sign off on it that they need to be reimbursed, but I don't think we're really at this point going into their personal finances to see if they got it from somewhere else. We're going to have to take them on their word at this point.
And also, for the dollar amount of $85, is that $85, this question came up, is it $85 for the room, or does that $85, that also include the taxes and fees?
The program was set up as an up to $100 per night reimbursement for the room only, not for food. The example on the page mentioned if someone had only was to pay out $85, then they'd be reimbursed for $85 a night. But it's an up to $100 a night. It was also, they had to stay in a hotel, motel in the county that they reside, or they're a member of the fire department. We had an issue where we knew of someone who was told to isolate, and they decided to go down to Florida for 2 weeks.
Live streaming has stopped.
We are not going to reimburse that person for going down to Florida for a vacation. It's to stay away from your family in the county that you live or reside or work, one of those conditions. But it's an up to amount. It is not 85, or I think we used the example also of $125. We had an example. It was only up to the 100.
So the $100 also includes taxes and fees?
It's whatever they're charging for the room, yes.
Okay.
And again, they're not being reimbursed from somebody else.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Going once? Okay, we'll move on to committee reports. Advisory Special Supplemental Committee, Conrad Alert.
No further to report. That's what was in your packet.
Thank you, Mr. Millert. Compendium Committee, Mr. Lane.
Nothing to report at this time.
Delegate and Life Member Committee, Mr. Kelly.
Yeah, the report should be in your packet. I guess we'll address that under new business, correct, Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
And the recommendation is for a flat dollar amount, which would be applied to food. I'm sure everybody can read it instead of me talking all about it, but it's a unanimous opinion of the committee to go forward with it.
Okay, so we will discuss that under new business. Finance Committee, Mr. Osborne.
Mr. President, Barry Osborne, Treasurer. The Finance Committee has been deferred until we can get some time so we can get the Finance Committee in the building in a safe environment, and we will report that as soon as we get it.
And the actuarial report?
Actuarial report, same thing. Everybody's either working at home or unavailable to go out in the field. So as soon as we get an update on that, we will forward it to you.
Okay, and you have anything on the budget at this point, or you want to wait until the new business?
I can wait from the new business.
Okay. Fireman's Home, Mr. Otterbein.
Good morning, Mr. President. Rich Otterbein here, Fireman's Home Chairman. Couple of things. Number one, the short report that I generated is in your package.
And I will just give a summary, if you haven't read it, of the latest May 9th, 2020 executive board meeting. As you may have read, Superintendent Hugh Flood will retire on August 1st, 2020. There are two other retirements that are set to go at the same time, August 1st. Both of the retirements are in the finance department. Mr. Flood reported that the operations are slowly returning to normal at the home. The home is still under quarantine as far as I know. Building and grounds, the main challenge right now, it seems to be the access bridge from the old building to the new building. There were several change orders that were approved. There are no applications pending. A search committee was formed for the replacement of the superintendent, and I guess also for working with the finance department to replace those who are retiring. There is a question about audit due to the superintendent and finance personnel changes, and that's going to be investigated. John Varus, Bergen County manager, was appointed as assistant superintendent there. $65,000 a year will be his salary. There was a question about Mr. Varus's availability due to his current status as the manager. And I think what has occurred is that his position as manager is going to be suspended, at least for 3 months. One of the interesting things is the current census update. This I just got. There are total beds of 73. Total guests last reported by the home was 61. There are 24 deceased. Current status or current census, 37 guests are still at the home. Available beds, 36. Employees, 28. And employees out due to the COVID-19 virus, 4. You will note in my report the comments that have been made, and I think it was highlighted, about our questions concerning the budget of the home. If you haven't read it, I would ask that you do read it, as the comments were made concerning the president's questions regarding the budget. That's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Are there any questions for the Fireman Home Committee?
Rich, Larry Hanlon, Hudson County. I apologize for not being able to make the last meeting. I do have 2 questions. We had some members, if I'm wrong, leave the home and go back to reside with their families.
That's correct.
Now, after this is said and done, do we know if they'll return to the home or they have to reapply?
Larry, I don't know that. I will have to find that out. The answer to that question from contacting the home.
Okay, thanks, Rich. And as far as the comments that were made regarding the letter that was sent, I was the one that made that motion asking them to explain the last 3 years of salary increases, and the response that is in the report is very vague. I mean, I reviewed their budget, but I don't have the documentation that was provided to the state, and I don't think we have it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if we do, I'd certainly like to see that, just to explain those salary increases, which seem quite high.
Mr. President, I don't think we've seen any other detail other than the response that was given to us, and I don't think we have any breakdown or any further response.
Everyone I believe received the email copy of the budget that they submitted to the state with all the paperwork that was attached to it at that point.
Live streaming has stopped.
There's no additional paperwork that I know of other than that original document that was sent out to everyone.
Yeah, and I sent that out, I think, in my last report, as far as attachments. The next full board meeting is July 11th, if in fact it occurs, and we'll see what the governor does with the lockdown.
Okay, Rick. Yeah, I understand that the fireman's home submits.
Is this still Larry?
Yes, I'm sorry, Rob, Larry Hanlon. I do understand that the budget is submitted to the governor for his approval and everything else, and that there was a comment made that it's our money. It's not our money, it's the state of New Jersey firefighters' money, and I believe there should be an accountability to the state Firemen's Association so we can share that with our members. They don't have they don't participate in the Fireman's Home as much as the Relief Association. So some of the documentation that the state questioned on the salary increases, I think we'd like to see that. Just maybe it would give us a better understanding on how they came up with that. Part of it said that it had to do with the new memory care unit, which is still in the process of being built and not staffed. So I don't understand how we put the cart before the horse.
Okay. Are there any other questions for the home? Yeah, Mr. Kelly.
Yeah, the one question I have is relative to the appointment of a new superintendent. I know at various times in the past there's been concerns voiced that the current superintendent was not licensed through the Department of Health to be managing a senior care facility. I have additional concerns with that now, being as we're going into a mental care, dementia, Alzheimer's type of unit. Is the committee that is going to be searching for a replacement, are they putting in licensing requirements by the State Department of Health as part of their criteria for employment?
To my understanding, and this is Rob Ordway speaking, to my understanding, that is not a mandatory requirement that they are using. If the person that they end up selecting happens to be licensed, that is great, but it is not a mandatory portion that are a block to someone being approved if they do not have a license.
For that facility, correct?
For that facility.
Correct. So that's one facility out of all the other care facilities that is exempt for that. But would that not be in the best interest of the residents, especially with the dementia ward going in place, that somebody carry that licensing?
I think everyone on our board would agree with you that it would be prudent. I don't know as their manager's board believes the same.
Understood.
Thank you. Any other questions for the Fireman's Home Committee? Okay, move on. Healthcare Assistance Committee, Jim Reeves. Jim? Jim Reeves? Are you on mute, Jim Reeves? Okay. I do know that in your packet, until Jim comes on, there is going to be a report, and there's going to be a recommendation that during new business, we increase the healthcare reimbursement up to $5,000. So that will be coming up under new business. Also, we've been talking again. I think we are at the point where the healthcare committee will begin the process of possibly somehow including spouses who are in needing this special care by the end of the year. Not yet for this meeting, but by the end of the year, we'll have something developed and be able to vote on maybe at the November meeting so that we start including spouses. Jim, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Okay, go ahead, Jim. Was there anything else you have?
I don't know where we are.
Okay, I just mentioned that we're going to be voting on $5,000 a month for reimbursement at our new business, and that possibly down the road we'll be starting to include spouses. Possibly.
Okay.
That's all I had for the healthcare. Did you have anything else?
Nothing else to have.
Okay.
No,
Any questions on healthcare? Legislative Committee, Brian Martone.
Thank you, sir. Brian Martone. The Legislative Committee report was distributed. The only verbal I have was the annual Legislative Committee meeting was canceled.
Just under that, prior to the COVID-19 outbreak, Vice President Hankins and myself met with Assemblyman Berzicelli. Although he is receptive to helping us, as many elected officials, they have their pet projects or things that they would like to see taken care of.
Live
He is
streaming
no different.
has stopped.
So we will keep you aware of that and what he has in his mind as we go forward. Long Range Planning Committee, Dan Spiegel.
No report, sir.
Pension Committee, Barry Osborne.
Mr. President, Barry Osborne, there's no report on Pension Committee at this time.
Okay. Salary Committee, John Phillips.
I don't see the report in my packet. Did it go out?
Yes, it did.
It did, so we have.
I emailed it out to everyone. Everyone should have received it via email.
Okay, so then we have a recommendation to vote on under new business.
Okay. Do you have anything else at this time?
No, not this time, unless there's a question.
I will mention that the Salary Committee will be meeting here in the State Office on Thursday to review all officers, their duties, and so forth. And that's this coming Thursday. Any questions for the Salary Committee? Jerry Nalis, do you have a brief report on the Fire Commission?
Very brief. The Fire Commission did not meet in March. We are scheduled to have a teleconference meeting next Wednesday.
Very good, thank you. That takes care of committees. Next is applications. We have no new applications for associations, but just to keep you aware, Hamilton Township in Mercer County is still moving forward on their consolidation of fire districts. They hope to have it completed by the end of the year, so we will have more on this in the months to come. But we don't have anything further right now. Old business. James Kenny mentioned the field exams. Those will still be coming down in the fall. Again, those counties that were going to have field exams, execs, if you have not gotten the relief apps from the locals, please do so. We are reviewing those. We've already returned 2 or 3 counties back that have been reviewed, and it's working out very well. Again, I mentioned we only have one association not seated, and I think that's it for old business. Moving on to new business. And again, ladies and gentlemen, please bear with us in the voting and the motions. Make sure we get everything right and get everything done correctly. First item I have on new business is the appointment of a field examiner.
Andy Mazzarella.
For an appointment to field examiner.
Mr. President. Andy Mazzarella, Middlesex.
Andy Mazzarella.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Jim Kenny as field examiner.
Okay, is there a second? Conrad
Larry
Alert.
Hanlon, Hudson County.
Conrad Alert. So we have a motion by Andy Mazzarella and a second by Conrad Alert to appoint James Kenny as the field examiner. Any questions on the motion?
Motion to close. Larry Hanlon.
Okay, is there any discussion of the motion? All those in favor of appointing James Kenny as field examiner, say aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Aye.
Is there anyone opposed?
Congrats, Jim.
Motion carried. Congratulations, Mr. Kenny.
Nice job, Jim.
Congratulations, Mr. Kenny. Again, everybody, please just bear with us as we go through these because this is important stuff. Next up is our council. Next up is our council. We have Frank Cavallo as council and George Morris as assistant council. Is there a motion concerning the council for the association? Bob Kelly from Monmouth County makes a motion to reappoint both gentlemen. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second the motion. John Lane for State County.
Who's that? Who's that?
John Lane for State County.
John Lane, okay. So, Bob Kelly makes a motion, John Lane second to reappoint Frank Cavallo and George Morris as our counsel. Is there any question on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
None opposed. The motion carries. Congratulations, Frank. Congratulations, George. Okay.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. I'm sorry we all can't be together. It's needed to say so.
Thank you.
We'll say thank you to everyone. Okay, moving on. We have the two resolutions that go to the state every year to receive back the 999 monies. Is there a motion to send those resolutions?
I'll make that motion.
That was Dan Shire making the motion?
Rich Otterbein, second.
Yeah, second the motion.
Okay, Rich Otterbein seconds. We have Dan Shire making the motion to send the resolutions. Rich Otterbein seconds. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Opposed? The ayes have it. The next item is the 2021 budget for the period July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2021. It was mailed out to all of you on Thursday.
Hey, Rob, too much background. I can't get you. Too much background.
Okay. I just muted everybody. Mary Ann, what did you need us to repeat?
I needed you to subject.
Okay. We just deleted everybody, so hopefully that'll take care of a lot of the background noise. And again, everyone, I apologize that this is a process, so please bear with us. The next item is the 2021 budget. It was emailed out to everyone. Motion to accept the budget. You need to unmute, make the motion, and go back to mute.
Rich Otterbein, I move the motion.
Lane, I'll make a motion.
Rich Otterbein moves the motion.
Move the motion.
John Lane seconded the motion. Discussion on the budget. Please, one at a time if you have a question.
Mr. President?
No question? Yes, go ahead.
I've been trying to chime in here. It's going a little too fast. With our background, there was some questions about previous stuff.
Okay, as soon as we do this motion, we'll go back to whatever you would like to go back to, Jay. Do you have a question on the budget?
Just about the burial fund. Is there any discussion on that?
What would you like to say?
What is there going to be a raise July 1st?
As of right now, no. We've been concentrating more on putting monies into our firefighters while they're still alive, taking care of them while they're living. So we've been increasing, if you notice, the special relief, supplemental relief, and the health care. In fact, one of the motions coming up is to increase the health care even more. But this year we were leaving the burial benefit alone. At least that's the recommendation. Any other questions on the budget? Okay, this will be a roll call vote on the budget. Again, Mr. Vartone will read the names and one by one we'll go through the vote. Again, bear with us. You're going to have to unmute one by one as you go to vote. Brian, go ahead.
We just ask if you, I'm going to read the name, and if you can just repeat your name and then say yes or vote yes or no. So first vote for approval of budget, John Lane.
John Lane, yes.
Mr. Walker.
Frank Walker, no.
Mr. Credilla.
Alan Credilla, yes.
Mr. Shire.
Dan, you need to unmute your screen. Down the bottom center, unmute it.
I can't get to the top, so I can't.
Dan, we did not get your vote.
I can move on.
Did you give us a thumbs up, yes, or a thumbs down, no? Thumbs up, yes. Thumbs up, yes. Did you get that, Brian?
Mr. Shire with the yes. Mr. Florio? Mr. Florio?
Nicholas Florio, yes.
Mr. Millert? Mr. Millert? Miss Badger?
Cindy Badger, yes.
Mr. Niles?
Jerry Niles, yes.
Mr. Fazekas?
Mr. Fazekas, are you with us?
See him, I can hear him.
Steve?
Fuzzy, put a thumbs up if it's yes.
Okay.
He was good?
Yeah.
Fazekas was a yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Figueroa?
Yes.
Mr. Spiegel?
Did you get it, Brian?
No, I didn't. You got it there. I hear you now.
Yeah, Dan Spiegel, yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes. James Reeves, yes.
Mr. Otterbein?
Rich Otterbein, yes.
Mr. Ramich?
Glenn Remick, yes.
Mr. Hanlon?
Larry Hanlon, yes.
Mr. Phillips?
John Phillips, yes.
Mr. Lenarski?
Joseph Lenarski, no.
Mr. Mazzarella?
Andy?
Andy Mazzarella, yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Robert Kelly, yes.
Mr. Manil?
Gene Minell, yes.
Miss Hollingsworth?
Jenny Hollingsworth, yes.
Sir, I have 19 yeses and 2 nos.
Thank you. Jay, you had some questions I missed at some point?
Back to the treasurer, could the secretary just correct from his to her in the resolution? Ms. Moyo from Mercer County is our state treasurer.
Okay.
We'll do that. You're cutting out.
Jay, can you repeat that for Mary Ann? You're cut out.
I'm requesting Secretary Palaia change the resolution from him to her to reflect Ms. Moyo from Mercer County as our state treasurer.
Very good. We will do that. Was there anything else, Jay? I apologize.
There's just a little decorum when making motions. Everybody's trying to be chiming in. If we're using the icon, I've been clicking on the icon and not being acknowledged.
We're on full screen and we're not seeing all of it. Let me change back to a normal screen. Maybe I'll be able to see it. Hang on a second. Exit full screen. Okay. Yes, Fuzzy. Thank you, Fuzzy. Was there anything else, Jay?
No, Mr. President, thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the salary committee's recommendation that was emailed out to everyone. It calls for a 2% increase for everyone. Is there a motion for that salary increase? I see Steve Pazikas makes a motion today, yes?
Rich Otterbein, yes.
And is there a second to that motion?
Rich Otterbein, second.
I'm sorry, everybody stepping on each other.
Rich Otterbein, second.
Rich Otterbein,
second the motion.
Steven Pazikas makes a motion to approve the salary recommendation. Rich Otterbein motion a second to approve. Andy Mazzarella, you want to speak? Go ahead, Andy.
Yes, I just have a question on that. Since there is no executive session to make a discussion, is it possible that in the July meeting that we can discuss the salary, what we're approving today, for a possible suggestion and modification?
Well, the salary committee as a whole is going to be meeting next week, and they may have some suggested correction, changes, additions at the July meeting. And we are also working on, for the July meeting, possibly having an executive session prior to the start of this meeting, just for the executive committee, and then open it up for the public. What we were not able to do today was stop the meeting midway for an executive session and then reopen it back up. But we figured out a way that we should be able to take care of that for the next meeting. But that's where we are today.
Should I email John Phillips with any suggestion?
Absolutely. John had requested any questions or comments, definitely go to him. You can email him or call him.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions in the motion? The motion is to approve the salary recommendation of 2%. Mr. Martone, please read the roll.
You on? I have vote number 2 is approval of 2% salary increase. Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Cardillo?
Cardillo, yes.
Mr. Shire?
Mr. Shire?
You gotta do a thumbs up like that.
I can't see him.
Hold on. Where's Dan?
Dan must be up top.
Yeah, it's got to be up on top there.
You have the thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Okay.
And Shire, yes. Florio?
Yes.
Mr. Miller? Miss Badger?
Yes.
Mr. Niles?
Gary Nellis, yes.
Mr. Fadikas?
Mr. Fazekas, yes.
Mr. Figueroa? Mr. Spiegel?
Dan Spiegel, yes.
Mr. Reeves?
James Reeves, yes.
Mr. Otterbein?
Rich Otterbein, yes.
Mr. Ramich?
Glenn Remick, yes.
Mr. Hanlon?
Larry Handlin, yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Mr. Phillips, yes.
Mr. Lenarski?
Joseph Lenarski, yes.
Mr. Mazzarella?
Mazzarella, yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Mr. Kelly, yes.
Mr. Manil?
G. Minell, yes.
Miss Hollingsworth?
Jenny Hollingsworth, yes.
Mr. Lane?
John Lane, yes.
Sir, all votes in affirmative.
Thank you, everyone. The next item I have on my agenda is delegate and life member allowance proposal, increasing $26 for delegates, $13 for life members for the convention. Is there a motion for that? And Mr. Kelly makes that motion for this year. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, Nick Florio.
Nick Florio seconds the motion. So we have a motion and a second for the $26 and $13. Discussion on the motion. Sensing none. Mr. Martone, roll call vote.
So number 3 is increase $26, $13 for delegate life member expenses. Mr. Cardillo.
Cardillo, yes.
Mr. Shire. I can't see him.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Thumbs up, Shire, yes. Mr. Florio.
Florio, yes.
Mr. Miller. Miss Badger.
Yes.
Mr. Nihilus.
Gary Naylor, yes.
Mr. Fazekas.
Mr. Fazekas, yes.
Mr. Figueroa. Mr. Spiegel.
Dan Spiegel, yes.
Mr. Reeves.
James Reeves, yes.
Mr. Otterbein.
Rich Otterbein, yes.
Mr. Ramich.
Yeah. Now, she can get you there, man.
Mr. Hanlon.
Larry Hanlon, yes. Walk over that,
Mr. Phillips.
come down the chair and come all the way down. Phillips, yes. Or she go
Mr. Lenarski.
Mr. Lenarski, yes.
Mr. Mazzarello.
Mazzarella, yes.
Mr. Kelly.
Bob Kelly, yes.
Mr. Manil.
Gene Minell, yes.
Miss Hollingsworth.
No, I wouldn't listen because I want to voice my opinion. They should be in Zoom.
Jenny Hollingsworth, yes.
Mr. Lane.
Lane, yes. It was my own meeting.
Mr. Walker.
Don't complain.
Excuse me, someone in the background.
Excuse me, there's someone, a non-executive committee member who's got their microphone on. You need to turn it off. Whoever that is, please turn your microphone off. The public portion was at the beginning of the meeting, and the portion in the meeting now is only for the executive committee. So whoever that is, please turn your microphone off. Thank you. Continue, Mr.
It's Mary Ann. I didn't hear
Yep, Mary Ann.
anything after Mr. Lane said yes.
Mr. Lane, you said
Mr.
yes?
Lane was the yes, and Mr. Walker is next. Mr. Walker.
Frank Walker.
She talked at the same time.
Frank Walker, no.
Thank you, Frank. Sir, I have 20 yeses, 1 no.
Very good. The next item on the agenda is the healthcare proposal, and that is to increase the healthcare reimbursement to an up to $5,000 a month starting July 1st of this year. Is there a motion to that effect? Mark Figueroa, make the motion. Is there a second to the motion? Dan Chief will make a second to the motion. Any discussion on the motion? We have a motion by Norm Figueroa, second by Dan Steve. Any discussion?
Larry Hanlon, Hudson County.
Oh, no, we got Larry Hanlon first. Larry Hanlon, go ahead.
Mr. President, I'm just concerned with the doubling of the health care. Is that going to be sustainable? We seem to...
Yes, it is.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're doubling that. We increased, we went 3,000 to 2,500. Smaller incremental steps, but if you feel it's
sustainable, yes.
Thank you.
Jerry Nayless, I think you had a question next.
Yes, I did. Actually, a statement. I think this is a matter that should be referred to the Long Range Planning Committee. we were moving forward with looking at other things relative to the healthcare program, and I think we should follow that pattern. There is no reason for us to rush this along. We made a rather sizable increase from 1,000 to 2,500, and the long-range plan committee had said that this year we would be looking at adding spouses, and I think that that's something that we should do. Just because we are increasing slowly in the number of applications doesn't mean that it's going to continue at a slow pace. Quite frankly, if we double this amount, that means we're going to be going to an amount of up to $60,000 a year per member that is going to go for healthcare costs. I think that's a little too ambitious right now, and I think that this warrants more study by the Long Range Planning Committee before it's adopted.
Okay. Mr. Hankins.
Okay, Jerry, just to try and answer some of your concerns. Currently, talking with Jim Kenny, only 30% of our applicants are using the full amount. So we have that certainly under control. There's enough money in the account to cover this. There's more than enough to cover this. So I don't know that slowing down in that fashion there's any need for that. I think the Long Range Planning Committee is still addressing the spouses, and that's something that, as the President said earlier, may come down the pike later in the year or next year. But as far as taking this action to double this, that'll provide round-the-clock care in-home for any member at this point, and I think that's where we need to be. Thank you.
President, this is Jerry again. In response, my concern is that the insurance markets are cyclical, and I don't think we have full appreciation of the impact that the economic downturn is going to have on insurance rates, particularly for fire insurance, which is where we get money to put into the special relief fund to pay for programs such as healthcare assistance. I think we really need to take a long, hard look at that. Right now, insurance companies are offering premium reductions and premium credits of up to 25%. So my question is if we had a 25% reduction in our revenue, would that be sustainable to our current program? Again, I think that this is something that needs to be examined by the Long Range Planning Committee before we go jumping into it. Because the fear is if we establish a program, I would not want to go back in 6 months or a year and say, oh, we don't have enough money, we're going to have to cut the program. Thank you.
Any other discussion from other executive committees? I see somebody, I don't have a name.
Mr. President?
Ron, I didn't hear that.
Sorry, who's this speaking?
Ron, it's Marianne. I didn't hear that.
Person who's about to speak, I am trying to get their name.
You're not coming so clearly. I can't hear you.
Joe Lenarski's going to speak now. Go ahead, Jay.
Mr. President, I have concerns about that too. It's, we'll be able to walk the program back. It's a lot of money. It's a big jump. And I know we have our flagship program, which is the burial fund. Maybe a nominal increase there would have been better. I do like to echo Executive Committee Dallas's concerns, and we study this first.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Mr. Kelly.
Yeah, when I received the poll, I initially voted that yes, I was in favor of doing this. However, hearing the comments that are coming out here this morning, and especially with the long range, and the one comment that probably disturbs me the most is the possibility that we're going to look at including spouses. In the past, the conversation had always been that spouses would not be part of this program because spouses could be covered under the regular relief. If we were to include spouses in this program, which I understand decision has not been made yet, nor a recommendation has been made, but I think that would double jeopardize the plan that we have right now. I would be curious, and not to put Chief Spiegel on the spot, but as chairman of the Long Range Planning Committee, I would be interested to see, or to ask Chairman Spiegel what he thinks the Long Range Planning Committee may be interested in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Mr. Spiegel, do you wish to respond? Dan? Dan Spiegel?
I lost the video feed of him. I don't see him.
Okay. Is there any other executive committee member wishes to speak on the motion?
Yes, James Reeves.
Go ahead, Mr. Reeves.
We are looking at this, at just the increase for our members only. That's too far in the future, looking for spouses. Currently, we're looking at our own people. We can afford that now, and we should move forward with that, because there's a lot of people out there who need the help in healthcare. Since we started this, we should keep going in that same pattern. Right now, I think we're fine with going to 5,000 and leave it at that. Thank you.
Hey, Dan Spiegel, you're back on now.
Yeah, sorry.
Someone had asked a question of the Long Range Planning Committee. I don't know if you heard the question.
I did. I lost signal for a minute. I actually have to agree with Mr. Nails. I know we doubled it back in November, actually more than doubled it from 1,000 to 2,500, and I was unaware that this was even coming up, so I think it's something that we would like to discuss.
Well, it is. I mean, we do have a healthcare committee, and that committee did review it, and they came up with this recommendation. I mean, I understand long-range planning does incorporate a number of different facets, but we do have a healthcare committee, and it is sustainable. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We know it's sustainable. So, as far as that aspect, unless someone has anything else to say, we should probably go to the vote. Is there anybody else that has a question or a comment?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, who is the chairman of the healthcare committee?
Jim Reeves.
I was Alan talking.
That was Alan Cardilla asking a question. It was Jim Reeves is the chairman of the healthcare committee.
Yeah, that was Rich Otterbein making
I'm sorry, Rich Otterbein.
Right.
And Jim Reeves, the chairman, recommends yes. Okay, let's go to the vote. Mr. Martone, again, this is a roll call vote.
So vote number 4 is to increase the health care to $5,000 a month. Mr. Shire.
Can you see him?
I can't see him, so somebody.
Hold on, everyone.
Mr. Shire.
We seem to have lost Mr. Shire. All right, go to the next person.
Mr. President, I see Mr. Shire there. You need either thumbs up or thumbs down, maybe.
Mr. Shire, if you could give me the thumbs up or thumbs down.
Brian, do you see his image?
I don't see his image, no.
Tommy? Joe? Rich Otterbein, you see him?
I do see him. If he's hearing me, a thumbs up or thumbs down in front of your face. You know, it's too low. Put it in front of you.
Now I see Dan. Dan, thumbs up. Okay, he's got 2 thumbs up. All right. So Dan Shire's a yes.
Dan Shire's a yes. Mr. Florio.
Nick Florio, yes.
Mr. Millert. Miss Badger.
No.
Mr. Niles.
Jerry Nails, no.
Mr. Fazekas.
Mr. Fazekas, yes.
Mr. Figueroa. Mr. Spiegel. I lost Dan's image again.
Dan Spiegel? Dan, we seem to have lost you. Dan? Dan Spiegel? All right, well, we'll come back to Mr. Spiegel at the very end, if he comes back on.
Mr. Reeves.
James Reeves, yes.
Mr. Otterbein.
Rich Otterbein, yes.
Mr. Ramich.
Glenn Romack, yes.
Mr. Hanlon.
Larry Handlin, no.
Mr. Phillips.
Mr. Phillips, no.
Mr. Lenarski.
Joseph Larsky, no.
Mr. Mazzarella.
Mazzarella, yes.
Mr. Kelly.
Mr. Kelly? You're speaking. Go ahead.
Technology, you know. Yes, reservations.
Mr. Manil.
G. Manel, yes.
Miss Hollingsworth.
Miss Hollingsworth, yes.
Mr. Lane.
John Lane, yes.
Mr. Walker.
Frank Walker, yes.
Mr. Cordilla.
Yes.
And then Mr. Spiegel, if he's here.
Dan Spiegel, did you get back on?
I had to call in. Do you hear me?
I hear you now, yes.
Okay, I had to call in. I lost signal.
How do you vote?
Dan Spiegel, yes. As long as you say it's sustainable.
Yes, it is.
Okay, sir, I have 16 yeses and 5 nos.
Very good. Thank you, everyone. The next item I have on my list, again, back in March, when Joe Hankins heard about FEMA and the state not reimbursing firefighters who had to isolate themselves in the hotels, we came up with a program to reimburse those people if they're not already being reimbursed from somewhere else. And I'd like a motion to affirm that program. I believe when we originally sent it out, it was for 11 days, and Mr. Hankins has read that it's now up to 14-day recommendation. So your motion would be to amend the original program, make it 14 days for an up to $100 reimbursement. We have a motion by Mr. Millard.
John Lane, second.
Nick Florio has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Sensing none? Who does?
Rick Treavy.
Okay, Mr. Treavy, go ahead.
The only thing that I think we ought to consider, and I know you made your statement, but I don't know how it's going to be put out there. There is a reimbursable source through FEMA. I'm not sure exactly how much money it's going to be for that purpose, so I think it ought to be it'd be a secondary.
Well, that's what the motion is. They're being reimbursed by someone else. They definitely are not going to get money from us.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
it's no different than the healthcare program, which actually, if they're receiving Medicare or any type of money, that's deducted off their bill, and we're only reimbursing the monies they're not already being reimbursed for. In healthcare, it's the same type of thing. So that is being addressed. Yes, thank you, Rick. Is there any other questions on the motion?
Well, the only additional thing I say to that is that the reimbursement through FEMA may
Live
be delayed.
streaming has stopped.
If you're going to issue funding to those individuals, they may end up getting reimbursed through their fire companies, through OEM or whatever it might be, to get that money back. So I just don't know how you handle that, if we're going to send the money out first or we're going to wait to see if they get reimbursement before we make that decision. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on the motion? Brian, roll call.
because just so I have the vote right, it's the amending for the 14 page and up to $100 per night.
Reaffirming and amending.
$100 per night. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Florio.
Mr. Florio, yes.
Mr. Miller. Miss Badger.
Yes.
Mr. Niles.
Jerry Nalis, yes.
Mr. Fazekas.
Mr. Fazekas, yes.
Mr. Florio. I'm sorry, Mr. Figueroa. Mr. Spiegel.
Dan Spiegel, yes.
Mr. Reeves.
James Reeves, yes.
Mr. Otterbein.
Rich Otterbein, yes.
Mr. Ramich.
Ron Remick, yes.
Mr. Hanlon.
Larry Handlin, yes.
Mr. Phillips.
Phillips, yes.
Mr. Lemarski.
Joseph Lemarski, yes.
Mr. Mazzarello.
Andy Mazzarella, yes.
Mr. Kelly.
Bob Kelly, yes.
Mr. Manil.
Gene Minell, yes.
Miss Hollingsworth.
Jenny Hollingsworth, yes.
Mr. Lane.
Yes, John Lane.
Mr. Walker.
Frank Walker, yes.
Mr. Cordillo.
Yes.
And then Mr. Shire. Somebody can help me with
Is Mr. Shire on? Can anyone see him?
I can see him, Mr. President, but he needs to go thumbs up or down. Dan, thumbs up.
Dan Shire was a yes.
Bob, you see it also? Thumbs up? Okay.
Sir all votes in affirmative.
Very good. That's all the items I have for new business. Is there any other new business to come before this body? I see.
Will this be retroactive?
I would say so, yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Who was it? I'm sorry.
That was Cindy Badger asking if the last motion was going to be retroactive from 11 days to 14. Yes, it is.
And how about the money?
Thank you.
Well, the monies are still up to $100. That hasn't changed.
Okay.
I'm sorry, who somebody else had an item?
Alan Cordillo, Rob.
Alan, go ahead.
Rob, can you give us an update on the plan for caucuses and the convention?
Certainly. I kind of knew this was coming, and I was hoping it would come near the end so we could get everything done. The officers are looking at all alternatives. We have Mr. Cavallo, as we speak, researching statutes for what we're exactly allowed to do and not allowed to do. We're going to be having a meeting this week. I've asked Mr. Lane, who's the chairman of the executive committee, to come to this meeting in our office here, and we're going to go over everything. And by the end of this month, we will have a game plan out to you, exactly what's going to happen, how it's going to work, how we're going to social distance, and so forth. Anybody that's ever called me during this past month, what I've done and told them is very simple. This year is not going to be like any other year. I'm not even sure we're going to be able to have a convention, but if we do, don't plan on bringing your spouses down. Don't plan on bringing your family down. Don't plan on members of your department who are not delegates or life members coming down. Skip all that this year. If even the hotels and motels are open at that point in September. Because let's remember, we're the 18th and 19th. It's late this year. Also, we don't know what restaurants are going to be open at that point. Wildwood just started opening up, or the Wildwoods and the 5 Mile Beach just started opening up. They had the boardwalk and beach open last week. The transient lodging is supposed to open up on the 26th. New Jersey has started opening things up, all the beaches. Essential businesses open it up on Monday, although they're curbside. So things are changing. I've held off making final decisions basically because I don't want to flip-flop. I don't want to hear that, it's impossible to do, so we cancel. Wait, there's a vaccine, let's put it back on. But wait, now we're on a mutation, so let's cancel. But wait, now we have a second vaccine. So we're trying to do this properly. We're going to make sure we have enough time to get it noticed out to everyone. Once we have a game plan, it's coming out to you, the execs, first for input, and then we will move forward. But my goal is to have a decision by June 1st or the end of this month, exactly what's going to happen. That still gives 3.5 months before the convention. That still gives 2 months, 2.5 months before the first caucus. So we are working on it. That's about all I can say right now. I'd love to go into more detail, but my problem is people only hear half of what you say, and they only hear what they want to hear. So even if I said that, well, this is an idea, people are going to take that as gospel, and by Monday I'm going to get a phone call saying you already decided to do this when nothing's been decided. So I'm not going into details yet, but by this week, next week, it'll be out to all of you. And then by June 1st, we may have to have a special meeting at some point, either a phone roll call meeting on what the game plan is. Mr. Cavallo is also checking on that. That's the best I can do at this point. I know people want more information. I will also remind you, the New Jersey State Firemen's Association, every government entity on 5 Mile Beach, the New Jersey Sports and Exposition Authority, has no control whatsoever on private enterprise. Restaurants, motels, hotels, those are private concerns, and the way they run their business, and if they give back refunds or how they handle all this stuff is their business. We have no control whatsoever. And I stress that because that seems to come up every year. They think that because we go down there that we have this bully pulpit or, club that we can hit them with. We don't. I told everybody that's called me, just buyer beware. You're making the arrangement with a hotel, motel. It is your business. Some of the hotels, when I was talking to Mr. Siciliano from the Sports Authority, if they cannot, because they physically don't have the funds, because they were working on their motels over the winter, they may hold your reservation till next year, because they're not able to physically give you back the money. That's between you and the hotel, motel. That is not anything we have any authority or any way of controlling. I know you all want more and better answers. That's the best I can give you today, and I apologize for that. Is there any questions, or is there any other further business for new business?
Mr. President.
This is who?
Rich Otterbein.
Yes, sir.
Just one question. We're to hold those dates for the caucuses, though, right? Hold those dates.
Absolutely. Worst case scenario for the caucuses, what we may end up doing, and this is a thought, the night of the caucus, we simply have an election. They come in, they register, they fill out a voting sheet, drop it in the box, and they leave. No meeting. They're going to be handed a packet of information, what the normal speeches would have been, and then they leave. They're not going to be allowed to congregate. They're not going to be allowed to talk out in the parking lot. I don't care if we have to get a cop to move them out of the parking lot. No congregation, no talking. 5 seconds. Register, vote, get out. And I know that sounds harsh, the way I just worded it that way, but, we have a responsibility to our members to make sure everyone is safe, and the only way to do that is to get people to move and move out. So that's one of the ideas being rolled. So we will still need the caucus nights, but you just won't have any food, you won't have any meeting, you won't have any refreshments, nothing. But then that is a discussion item. I still stress that. Discussion. Please, if that's one word you hear that it's discussion, not set in stone. Does that answer your question, Rich?
Thank you very much. That's a great answer.
Thank you. I tried.
James Reeves.
Anybody else have a question?
James Reeves.
Go, Mr. Reeves.
You've already answered my question, I believe, but just a comment.
Yes, sir.
that I've had a couple questions as to sending deposits down for rooms. Just keep that under consideration the next 2 weeks as we talk. Thank you.
Yes. Anybody else? Are there any other topics to come up under new business? John Phillips, go ahead.
Yeah, just want to remind everyone to please, if you have a comment or suggestion for the salary committee, to get it to us before Thursday so we can talk about it at our meeting, please. Email or phone call is fine.
Did everybody get that? If you have a question or comment for the salary committee prior to their Thursday meeting, email or call John or email any members of the committee so they can bring it up for discussion Thursday, or email me and I will get it to the committee one way or the other. So if anything at all for the salary committee, get it to us, preferably by Wednesday. Anything else under new business? Okay, I'm not sensing any, so we'll move on to the remarks for the good of the order. I think we accomplished a lot today. I apologize to everyone for the way this was handled. This was our first time doing a meeting like this, and I apologize that it's a little fuzzy. No offense, Steve. But we are doing the best we can. We already have some other ideas for the July meeting should we have to do this, so hopefully it will be better. Again, I want to ask you, please keep Ernie in your thoughts and prayers, and keep Dan, Andy, and Barry moving along in a positive direction. As I said, Dan, Andy, and Barry were able to be with us today, but they can still do a lot better with your thoughts. Are there any additional remarks from the execs? Andy, go ahead.
I just like to say, thank you for the well wishes and the prayers during my time in the hospital. I'm still on the mend. I got a surgery scheduled. So hopefully, I'm on the road to recovery. And again, once again, thank you so much. Thank you so much for
okay, Dan, thank you. I see Dan Shire would like to speak. Dan, is your microphone on? Dan? No, his microphone is not on. But I am sure he wants to thank everyone for their kind words and getting in touch with him. And you there, Dan? No. Because I know he's been moving forward, getting rehab and doing much, much better. Any other remarks or comments for good of the order? Yes, Mr. Malone. Yes. No, you're not on. Hold on.
I'd like to thank the officers for coming up with this outer space type of communications for having our meeting. Thank you very much.
Again, we will work on getting it even better for the next time out. This is our first time doing it, and I apologize. I know it was not conducive to a good conversation on some of the topics, and I apologize for that. We need to do better, and we will. Any other comments before we adjourn? Is there any motion to adjourn?
So moved. Mr. President, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Moved by Nicholas Florio of the Great County of Union, second by Mr. Fitro. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. We will be in touch.
Stay safe, everyone.
Everyone stay safe. Be well.
Stay safe.
Be well, everyone. Stay safe.
Enjoy, be safe.
Feeling like one of a kind. Oh, now